you've got two ways in which you could do it. You could come to the intranet, and within the intranet, no, it's not there. You type at the top office.com, and because you're logged onto your trust computer, it should come straight to your new look there. If it doesn't, and you're actually accessing it from offsite, if you do the same, office.com, you will then come to this link here, that's office.com, and you'll be able to log in. And you'd have to log in with your work account, because that's the account that has the functionality to demarcate your policies from your intranet. So intranet and internet. So we're going to be in two locations. When I say internet, I mean something that's external to the organization. And when I say intranet, it's internal to the organization. So I will take a sample of a policy that we have. And within each policy, you've been shown how to create a template and how to do your research. Now you have to decide whether you are starting a new policy or whether you are actually editing a policy. So let's say, for instance, in this instance, we're editing a policy, and I'm going to take a policy from corporate services, and I will take one from HR, and that is the policy I'm going to pick. It's the e-rostering policy. So you see at the middle top there, you've got work and you've got web. So if I say here, please bring up, and that's another thing, you're going to have to learn how to write your prompts and to create prompts. And that's something that's going to be covered in great detail at a later stage. So please bring up any updates that are required for the policy. And I'm just going to put the number there. Now, this is a bad prompt because I did not say when the updates start from. So what Copilot is going to do is going to look at the policy, and it's then going to decide when it was last updated and then what the updates are. So as you can see, it brings up the current policy status. All I had to do is put in the policy number. I didn't have to put in the title. It figured out it was the e-rostering policy, and it shows when it was updated and when it was approved. So now it looks after the date that this was approved, and it brings up with the most current versions, or what you could update the documents with. So the key updates based on the current update: formal policy review, mandatory legislation. It looks at all the legislation to see whether anything needs to be updated. It's now giving me an idea of what I can look at to look for updates in the policy. So if I go now to the bottom of it, it will then give me a quick summary or a quick overview of what I need to update. But because this is a very current policy, it doesn't really have that much that you can update. It's just looked at the formatting and the template. So if you had an older policy, or if you wanted to say in this policy, it's linked into other IT policies or other documents, you could actually ask Copilot or interrogate Copilot to say what other policies are labeled within this policy. What other trust policies are indicated in this document? Now, the importance of checking what other policies are in this document is to find out if those policies are actually valid. So if you have a policy that's listed 10 other policies and maybe 2 of them are outdated, then that in a way invalidates your policy. So you need to be able to check to see if other policies included in there are up to date. So it shows in here that there are 5 policies that are included within the e-rostering policy. So it then explains where it's indicated and what it's referenced to. And then it gives a summary table of the policies. So now what I want to know is, are any of these out of date? Okay, important note for your review update. Most policies were last accessed in 2023. So that means that these are really old policies. So if I say, do any of these policies, oh, not due, are any of these policies out of date? The alternative to doing this would be to actually read through the whole policy, check against the policy itself, and going into the policy document to check out the numbering. But as you can see, because you're working within the work environment, it's able to interrogate everything that's on SharePoint and on the document library. Because I did not tell it to go to the document library, I just told it it's a policy, and it automatically picked up the policies. So as you can see, the last recorded date for each policy, 2021, 22, that these are really, really old. And therefore, if then mentioned in this policy, it's important to note that this has to be brought to the attention of the policies committee and the governance team. So that's another way you could use Copilot. The other way you could use Copilot, apart from interrogating the system in terms of what you want, is, as you can see, I'm able to ask a question that is dependent on the previous answer. So interdependency is very important within searching chat, and it makes it easier than searching on Google. So if I want to say, I want to see what other trusts or other NHS trusts have used within the HR policies, then I would click onto the web version and ask that question. But I'm on the work version, so that interrogates within the work. So if I say, I click here onto the web version, and I say, find me 5 NHS e-rostering policies that were created in 2025. I should say it's looking not only within NHS, it's important, maybe I should say, I wanted to either look at NHS England or NHS Trusts. I have any NHS rostering, okay, authored by NHS England or NHS Trusts. Now I say NHS Trusts because there are other NHS organizations that don't work in the same way NHS Trusts work. So that's why I've put that in there. I didn't tell it that I want the links, but I'm sure it'll bring up a link to show that where I could find the document. If it brings up any documents, I can actually ask it to show me what's within those documents that are missing within my own trust policy document. So as you can see, it's actually given up the organization and it's given the link itself and the PDF. I do not have to specify in detail, but it understands the format in which I would want the information in the policy. If you wanted the format in a different way, you could actually tell it to say, put this information within an Excel table for comparison, and it will do that for you within a comparison table. So in terms of policies, we have looked at looking at other NHS trust policies to use as guides. You could, at this point, download these policies into a folder, and then you can actually then interrogate Copilot to say, compare all these policies within that folder. The other way you could use Copilot is you could actually search to find out if there is any new legislation. You can also ask it to create an environment where you say, I'm going to create an agent, and an agent just simply means like a small environment where I want you to work within these parameters. So if I say, for instance, I'll show an example of a previous agent I did. So in this agent, it has instructions and you are able to create personas. When I say persona, I'm able to go into the settings and say, right, I'm a librarian and I want to check references, or I'm a consultant and I want to look at the clinical aspects of this and that's a persona. Now, before we go into how to look into detail in HR policies, we are going to run some courses on how to create agents in detail. So we could do that. We are also going to run sessions on how to prompt within Copilot. And also we're going to show you step by step how to create environments within Copilot for you to interrogate. Do you have any questions at this point? Now, as my last interactive session. I'm running out of time. My time's up by 22 seconds. So in my last interaction, I would like everybody to please open up their Copilot sessions. And if you could raise your hand once you've opened your Copilot sessions. Thank you. Has everybody opened OP, Chris?
Yep.
Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do is ask Copilot to create a persona of yourself based on your emails. Or say create yeah, a hero, maybe a hero image of myself based on my emails. And then once you've created it, if you could please share your screens. Could you please put your heroes in the chat?